I'm returning the tape to Pat and Howard. I presume it's Heine, or it's either Heine or Henny. Henny probably sounds the best. But anyway, I was real pleased with your tape. The dadgum thing was rather short. But then swimmers take a short swim, too, the first time in the water, so it's excusable. In the first part of this tape here I have recorded off of a piano of mine. So first, to get the recordings all over with, I'm going to record one tune off of my Coinola that plays the O roll, has 24 flute pipes, and the mandolin and the piano. The flute pipes I had off at the time, and so it's just playing mainly as a piano. Then after it, Howie, and Pat, I'll play my Coinola midget orchestrion, which I've had apart for 2 years and working on all new valves and everything. And when I get through playing it, I'll also tell you some of the things I did to it, Howie, and also about some of these gadgets I've made that assist me in my repair work, and also about leather pouch material that I use. And I'll more or less, I've got a little bit more here. I've used part of the tape just to introduce myself more or less here, and then come to the piano playing. Enjoyed your tape very much, and as soon as this one tune is over, and then I play the Coinola midget orchestrion here, then I'll do quite a bit of yakking, and later I might put on some other stuff that might be of some interest. When I was outside, I did trade off a small Nelson Wiggins I had, and part of what I took on trade was the 15-inch Regina music box. So I'm now looking for some more discs for a 15-inch Regina music box. That I gave to my wife. It rather appeases her towards my obsession with the pianos, which I'll admit is it's a terrible fever, but it's sure nice. I've enjoyed every bit of my piano playing. So now I'm going to let this go ahead and play this tune for you on this upright Coinola. Now this next one will be my midget Coinola Orchestrion, and this is a cabinet job, and it's about 64 inches high and all around. Well, I'll look, see just what it is. Just hang on. Well, it's 64 inches high, 48 inches wide, and approximately 24 inches deep, and of course that's about 22 inches deep actually, because 24 inches would take in the bottom extrusions that come out from the cabinet there for the casters. It's just a cabinet job. 65-note piano, the mandolin, bass and snare drum. The timpani beaters I made up myself with Wurlitzer valve blocks and put on it. The triangle, the cymbal, the wood block, the tambourine, the snare drum, the single, and the snare roll, which is the repeating. It's got two beaters, one for the tap and one for the repeat. And it's got the tambourine and, of course, the mandolin and xylophone. I've changed the machine around considerably. The pump that came with it wasn't much count. The machines, when they get older, they sometimes seem to demand a little bit more vacuum. And so I picked up a pump in San Francisco, an all ball bearing pump that was either out of a Duo Art or an Ampico Grand. And I changed it all around. I moved the spool box over to one side and put the pump up in the top. Someday I might add a set of pipes. If I could ever find a set of pipes in the chest for this, I'd surely put them in. But I don't have any now, and I don't know where I can find any. I would sure like to find a nice little set of violin and flute pipes, possibly 24 in each rank, and put in this. It's cut for it on the roll yet. The cabinet is in horrible shape. The veneer is peeled off in many places, and it is indeed sad. Now this machine I tore completely down. I even took the harp, or the plate, out of the back of it, and I V'd the soundboard down and inserted shims, bought myself a nice electric glue pot from an organ factory, and shimmed this all up, and I made the sad mistake of tearing the strings off of this. Not the bass strings. I had enough sense to take the bass strings and send them back to Schaff for rematch. But when I started into the treble section, I never gauged those darn strings, so I had no idea what size it took at all. So I had another Coinola, the one that just played for you, as a matter of fact. That was a 1918 Coinola upright piano with a keyboard. And I gauged those strings, inasmuch as they played the same role, and they seemed to have pretty much the same string arrangement, especially in the treble section. And inasmuch as they both started on playing in the treble range on the same note, which I believe was E, well, I went ahead and strung it up that way, and surprisingly enough, it turned out quite well. Pardon me. Well, I'll go ahead and play a tune on this and see how it bats it out. back home in Illinois. Well, I could have gone a long ways without finding two lousier tunes, I guess. The first one was Back Home in Illinois, and the second one was the Kinky Kids Parade, which I've never heard of either one of them. Well, I really had a tussle with that machine. I mean that because first I took it apart, and the stack looked pretty hopeless. I knew that I had to tear off all the pneumatic cloth, and but I didn't know how I was going to get all those pneumatic blocks apart without breaking them. Usually the glue holds so darn tight that usually it splits the block, some of the wood, in preference to separating where the glue was. That's how good the glue was. But I'll tell you what I did. I put that in an oven, in the electric oven here, and I run it up to, I'd say maybe 100 degrees, something like that. Kind of pretty doggone warm, where they wouldn't shrink too bad or wreck them otherwise from heat, char them, or anything. I left them in there till they was real warm to the touch. As a matter of fact, slightly over warm to the touch. And then through the hole in the back, which was square where the air comes in from the stack, I put a screwdriver and just give a little pry, and I'll be a son of a gun if they didn't pop off just as nice as you please. So I was very elated over that. The job was very lengthy because the glue was so bad, so good, and the diaphragms for operating the little valves inside were made out of a very light rubberized pneumatic cloth. Now, also I'm going to enclose in this box a small sample of the type of leather that I have been buying from Pipe Organ Company for valves. And I've found, that's what I put in this stack. I thought I heard somebody knocking at the door. But I made all the valves in this stack out of that leather. I had to have a machinist over here in the shop make me a punch because I didn't have the arch punch of that size. And you talked about the brass valve I made. Well, Howie, I think you misunderstood me slightly. It's a piece of brass that I cut to conform to the shape of the diaphragm. I tried to put in diaphragms with my fingers. And first, by the time I got all these little ledges cleaned where they set in the block, then I found out that I had to take a hole saw and I cut out a plug of wood, and then I put it on a threaded bolt and run this bolt in there and then put it in the drill press, and I would keep sandpaper on the end of it. And so I come down with the drill press and sand that seat right out so it'd be nice and smooth. So I found that one sandpaper would be good for 15 or 20 of those blocks. And I did it real light, and so I got them cleaned up real nice. But then when I had to go to put the darn diaphragms in there, the diaphragms have to be just slightly larger than the hole in order to get the belly in the pouch that's needed to work the valve. I put some in by hand first. They were too small, and I made the mistake of not giving them enough allowance there. That pouch should go clear to the bottom of the pocket that the pouch sets in, because there's another little disc that goes on top of that, and that takes up quite a bit of space. Well, what I did is I took out so much of my clearance there that I had to put them together without the disc. Well, in order to do that, you don't leave any wear point in there for that valve, and it would soon punch a hole right through your pouch. So I ripped them all out again. Then I made this thing out of brass and put a tube on it so that I made a big reducer down to a little reducer out of a block of wood, stuck the vacuum hose right in the block of wood, and then cut a little hole for, I think it's about 1/8 inch nipple. It's pretty small. And then I run a whole series of holes all around the face of this, the dome of this piece of brass that would form the pocket that I wanted, or the belly, the recession. And then I'd put that thing on there and I'd form it to shape with a vacuum under it to hold it wherever I put it. And then I'd take my hot glue and I'd run that hot glue's real nice for that too. I'd run it right around to the outside edge of that, on the ledge where the pouch would set. And then I'd take this thing and I'd just set her right in there. And I'd put a little pressure on it, press it down, and work it a little bit to be sure it was seated. And then I'd break the vacuum on it just by pulling the hose off of the nipple. And boy, I'm telling you, it made the most beautiful looking pouch. It looked just like a factory job. Now, the trouble I had with putting them in by hand, Howie, was I'd stick those doggone things in there and I'd get that glue all over my fingers, and then it'd start sticking to the pouch, and then it'd be wrinkled along the ledge where it sat, and then I couldn't get the right belly into it. So then I used a lead pencil, using the eraser end to tap them in and press them around there, but I could not get those darn wrinkles out along the edge, and which would make the pouch pull a little bit cockeyed when it would go up to bring the valve up. So I didn't actually make any brass valves. I just made a form out of brass to conform the pouch to the shape that I wanted it to in its relaxed position. And then I took another piece of sheet brass, and after many, many tries, the Coinola the pneumatic block for the striking on the stack, striking the keys, is very odd shaped. And matter of fact, I got a Seaberg with some that's shaped just practically the same way. And after many tries, I got one that would just fit right on that darn thing. And well, so close anyway that I've never had one come off, and I've never had one that wouldn't work yet. So then I had to cut 66 of them out. And then I tried to cut the holes in the end, or on the lap over, on the end that fastens to the stack there, back by the hinge, so that it'd have the right holes in it. But boy, I found that was very difficult to get them just right, and not having the machine facilities here, well, most of my stuff I've had to do on a drill press and hacksaw and a little bit of a cheap bandsaw I've got here, and I cut out stuff with it. But anyway, it sure cuts those pneumatic claws out nice. So if you have a Coinola or anything like that that you're planning on fixing up that way, well, boy, I sure recommend this. Now, I will go ahead, upon hearing from you again, if you would like to borrow this dome thing that I've got made out of brass for inserting these leather pouches, well, you're certainly welcome to it. I'll send it on to you. However, this might not apply to your particular case. I mean by this, you might have to change the size somewhat. This is just for one specific size. But anyway, the theory is there. Now, I have several machines, like my Wurlitzer with the automatic roll changer. In the stack board there, in the valve pouch board anyway, they're all of this zephyr skin too, like you speak of. That's a very thin animal intestinal skin that's been dried. I think that's what it is. Anyway, they call it zephyr skin. I don't like the darn stuff. I find it's hard to work, and I just don't like it for some reason. But by George, it sure seems to be durable. There's an awful lot of I have a Wurlitzer pipe organ, a photo player, picture player. I've got the pipe chest out of one of them, and they're square valve pneumatics in there. You've probably seen them. They're square, and they work on a pressure and a pressure bleed system. They're all covered with that zephyr skin, and by George, they've been in there for years, and they sure hold out good. But just personally, I just think it's kind of hard to work. But you say so in the next tape, and I'll send that thing on to you, and you can surely use it to get the idea and send it back as soon as you get through with it. I made it out of a pretty good heavy piece of brass because I like that extra weight, and I leave it set on there long enough to let the glue take hold a little bit. Now I'm going to get down to your tape. I practically wrote a blinking letter to you here, taking notes off of it. First, I don't really need any C rolls, Howie. The only reason I mention them is because the C rolls will play on my Reproduso silent picture player, and because they're made by the same company, the C roll was really an expression roll for strictly an expression piano. And it just happened that a guy sent me 6 of them because I'd sent him some old rolls, and he had them laying around, didn't know what they were for, and so he sent me the 6. I like them very much, but I wouldn't go out any great deal of money for them, and I would pick them up at a bargain, though, because they are rolls, and I can use them after a fashion. Now, the first thing that I want to clarify and get straight with you is on my using the word photo player. Now, using the word photo player for any picture machine is just like when you say caterpillar and using the term caterpillar for any type of a track-type tractor. Caterpillar is a patent name. There's only one Caterpillar tractor. Also, with the photoplayer, it was the same thing. The photoplayer was made by the American Photoplayer Company, and that was a trade name. Now, Wurlitzer had a few that they called, I'm pretty sure they called them motion picture orchestras. And Seeburg, I don't know what they call them. I've never seen a Seeburg picture machine. And the Reproduco, which was made by the Coinola people, darn, I don't even remember what they called theirs. I'll look in some literature here and see. Well, Wurlitzer called it the Motion Picture Orchestra, and the Reproduco people just merely said a piano. Just read the blinking thing and laid it down and forgot what it was. They call it the Reproduco player pipe organ. And they say the Reproduco has amazed all who have heard it, powerful in tone possibilities, yet capable of being shaded to any desired degree. Its registers and possibilities adapt it perfectly to the use for which it was intended, the theater. So they don't really call it anything. And to my knowledge, Reproduco never made any machine with a side cabinet for sound effects like as the bird call and the doorbell and many of those. And a matter of fact, they just had strictly, they made them in different forms and made some with mandolin. To my knowledge, they might have made a duplex machine, and they made several different styles, such as they made the type that just played the regular 88-note rolls, and you would sit there and make the tonal changes as desired. But they never made a thing with any sound effects, to my knowledge. Now, I'll go on. So much for all that clutter right now. Now, I have some parts of Wurlitzer rolls. I think they're 10 perforations to the inch, and on red paper. And they're really no good to me, Howie. If you want them, there might be 2 or 3 tunes in all of what I've got there. I'll send it on to you. Now, I have one North Tonawanda roll, and with the spool. And also I have another extra spool that I believe it went for another style. It might have been a 125. However, I doubt this because I had a 125 and I don't think it fit mine. And it might have been for some other machine like a pianino or something. But I don't know as that spool is of too much value to me, nor is the North Tonawanda spool. And North Tonawanda was later taken over by Wurlitzer, I understand, and so it might be of some value to you, and I'd be glad to send that on to you and trade it off for something that I may need. Now, maybe you don't know it, but the North Tonawanda band organ, especially the one I got this roll from, was a pressure and a bleed system. I call that pressure and a bleed because it had pressure at the tracker bar instead of vacuum, and it had a roller that between the perforations, this roller had many discs on it. So there was a disc between each perforation to keep the paper up solid against the tracker bar. And of course, the way it would work then is when one of the tracker bars exposed, it bled a valve and would let it operate and sound the pipe. Now, if you would care to have that roll, it's a 10-tune roll. I'll go ahead and send it to you and just trade it to you for something. I don't like to sell stuff because I'd rather trade it. And I don't like to try to get the best of anybody, but I do better by trading, I think. So you let me know about that, and quick. And so I can get some of this other information I've asked you for. And like I said, I'll send you the pouch tool that I made, and you can make a copy from it. And if you have any Coinola pneumatics that you're going to recover, well, say the word, and I'll send you this pattern. And also, I'll cut one out on the pattern, so you'll be sure and use it right side up. There is a difference. There's right now, and it doesn't make much difference anyway. So there was several of them that made it. Incidentally, the people that made the photo player, they also made a roll they called the picture roll, and they were just the size of the 88 note rolls, and they'd have duplex spool systems, so you could play in one roll while you loaded it with another. Let's see here. And gee, you mentioned having 35 H rolls. That's sure a pile of H rolls, Howie. And I'm sure glad that you've got them. I'll try never to try to talk you out of any of them. I know how you feel about those things. Incidentally, since I talked to you on the other tape, I wrote to the people again in Canada, and they say that machine's in perfect shape. But somebody did remove the ebony statues from the corners of the machine, and also the two stained glasses in the center of the front of the machine were removed so you could see the pipes and the drums beating. But the other stained glass, and also the colored lights up on the top. There's 3 colored lights hanging up on the top. They are still there. They say the machine is in perfect condition. But he says now there's only 10 rolls with it. So I'm going to write back again and see just how many there is and how many instruments are in it. And you might let me know right away, if you would, how many tunes are on the H roll. I'm afraid it might be 5, but I heard from one fellow he thought it was 10. So I would appreciate knowing that, and also knowing usually how many tunes how many instruments the H plays. And let's see, I was going to say something else in regards to the H. Oh yes, originally they cost $3,050. Their price is $1,000. I had a woman write me a special delivery and said she had a Seeburg Special K, I think she said, and she wanted $1,200 for it, and it was playing, they said, when they'd stored it 7 years ago. See. And if I were you, I wouldn't give Akins an H roll either. That's how some of these birds get so doggone much. They scrounge it off of somebody else, and big promises and no return. I wouldn't give them a thing. God, getting $3,500 for a picture machine, that's as much as Wurlitzer got for their good Model H with the 2 big side cabinets as big as the piano was. That's how much they got new. Yeah, they're getting crazy with this stuff. And these guys that's got money, they got me beat because I can't throw it out like that. So, well, you mentioned a Coinola using an H roll. Doggone, it must be a homebrew changeover deal, because I've never heard of a Coinola using a H roll. Of course, I haven't heard of everything yet. They did many things in those days. And your Seeburg G sounded real good. And I've seen those doggone 4X rolls. I might even have one. I understood that the X was for the xylophone type piano. Now, I may be mistaken on that. And you said it might give me some ideas for changing over a machine. Well, I already took a Seeburg Celeste pipe organ piano combination I had, and I changed it from a funeral roll so it plays the OS and the NOS roll. Matter of fact, I had my reproducer 2 manual pipe organ that I was looking for those long rolls, and I wrote to that man in Miles Mountain for, and he didn't have anything like it at all. And matter of fact, I don't think he knows much about what he has got. But I changed that over once. I retubed it so that and revamped the tracker bar and spool box so that it'd play the regular 88 note roll. But there was difficulties there. I could have done very much better if the coupler had been from the swell to the grate instead of the grate to the swell. It got me kind of fouled up there. So I've done a little revamping myself. I had a Seaberg A, and I tubed it up to play the G roll, and made a few gadgets for it. But wood is hard to get, and material's hard to get here. I just have to do the best I can. By George, that's quite a lash up you've got on that Seaberg picture machine, where it'll play the standard 88 notes, and it'll also play the Seaberg H. That's quite a deal. And you'll find the difficulties are many when you get into those machines. They were quite complicated, but if a guy takes his time and looks at that tubing that's been broken under there, and piece by piece he manages to get this hooked up and that get hooked up, and pretty soon, by George, he's got her back, and when he gets a little experience at this, he gets pretty good at it and can figure those things out fairly reasonable, and to a very neat benefit, too. Yeah, I need a Wurlitzer motor for my Wurlitzer motion picture orchestra, as they call it. That darn thing hasn't got a motor, and it takes the same size motor as most of these Wurlitzer machines. It's got the automatic changers, and that have a crank system in there that cranks a vacuum on the bottom and a pressure pump up over the top, so it has a double action there. You might let me know if you know of any. And this machine that you played a piece of, made in Amsterdam, I'm aware of it. I know a man in Tacoma that priced it, and they'll land one in Tacoma for him for $5,000. And they are a very nice sounding machine. And this monstrous band organ that you're building, you've really got a project there, and it'll be well worth hearing. And I wish you all the luck in the world, and it's sure fun to work on something like that. I don't think I've ever done anything that I've got as much kick out of as I have working with these old machines. And I'm going to send a sample of my Wurlitzer roll that plays on my picture machine. And maybe if you've got a chunk of one that you could send a sample back, I could soon determine if it's adaptable to my picture machine, my Wurlitzer picture orchestra, motion picture orchestra. It is a duplex tracker system, too. You load one while the other one's playing, and it has two side cabinets. There's only one on the left has the drums and all the sound effects except the bird call. And the bird call was in the pipe chest, which is on the right, but it only has 89 pipes in a total of 89 pipes. And but it looks like a fair machine that doesn't take up too much space, so the best I've been able to do. And I could sure use some rolls if you've got any of that type. And as I've said before, a sample will be enclosed. How many pipes is in there in your piano, Wurlitzer piano organ combination there, Howie? You might tell me about that. How many pipes in a total and so forth? Just curious. I kind of like those machines. I had a 2125 band organ, and I was a fool to ever let it go. I let the man pay me $300 on it. Oh, he's going to pay it right up. And so doggone, after a year and a half, or 2 years, I couldn't get anything out of him, so I went down there to repossess it, and the top of a building had flown off, and it was pretty well bunged up, and doggone, I was disgusted, so I took two portable projectors from him. They were Holmes portable projectors, 35 millimeter, both for silent and sound. My interest in these silent picture players is the fact that I have 50 or 60 silent picture reels. As a matter of fact, most of them are one-reel features, and old cowboy stuff, and lover stuff, and real corny, some of it. The girls always turn their cheek in the end of the picture for the man to kiss her on the cheek. Boy, how silly can they get. I went to Dawson City here over the 4th of July, and I ran across a Wurlitzer motion picture orchestra. What was left, evidently theater caught fire, and they jerked the side cabinet away from the piano and got it out, but the piano burned. All I got off of it was they had some stuff in a box there and thrown it in an old building, and all that was left was the 6 foot pedals for working different sound effects. And all there was left in the side cabinet was a pipe chest, which was arranged for 38 flute pipes and 38 violin pipes, and there were 7 pipes left in it, 6 of the flute and 1 of the violin, and then I found a couple more pipes laying around there. The kids had gotten in there and tore everything out of it, and some pipes had been ripped right out, and the bottom of the pipe was still glued in the chest, and they just ripped the top out, and it was gone. And I got a horse trot block, or else they call it coconut clatter, too, and I got one repeating valve action that was either for a tambourine or a snare drum. They used pretty much the same on both of Wurlitzers. And let's see, what else? And I got one other little beater. It looked like it might have been for a tom-tom or a woodblock or something. There was no valve action. It was just a pneumatic with a wire stem on it and a block knob on it for beating something. And that's all there was left in that thing. I got 4 or 5 nipples. I guess I got 7 nipples that was screwed into the end of the chest where it connected with hoses from the piano cabinet to the sound cabinet. And by golly, that was just the bulk of what I got out of that. So I do have a chest now. If you have any pipes, 38 Wurlitzer low-pressure pipes and 38 flute pipes, maybe we can make a trade on something. I do have a snare drum that I might consider parting with, Howie. I've got one snare drum left in my trunk of gadgets, and I might consider letting that go because, well, I've got one snare drum I made up out of a toy drum, and this other one's more or less of an extra. And then I've got another snare drum in my side cabinet with my motion picture orchestra. And then there's another one off of a Wurlitzer that I'm dickering with that I may get shortly, as soon as I find out exactly what's in it. And if he'll make a trade that I offered him on a piano I had still sitting down in Georgia, a little Wurlitzer pianino. And I might consider letting that go. Like I said, I need a motor for a Wurlitzer, and I'm short a few articles here and there. I would like to find some pipes for this chest here. Just I'll sign off for just a minute here and find out just what the size of holes are in that chest. Stand by one. Yeah, Howie, starting with the bass pipes, the first 6 pipes in both the violin and flute ranks were 5/8 of an inch. That's the part of the pipe that sets into the chest hole. And the next 20 pipes were 9/16 of an inch. The next 12 pipes, which were the smallest ones, of course, are 7/16 of an inch in the foot of the pipe where it fits into the chest. So you might have something in that line. You might let me know. You know, I've still got your roll here for the... you had 20 of those rolls, 15 1/4 inches wide. For the Apollo, I've had that darn thing boxed up here with your name printed on it for 6 months. I guess they don't amount to much. Not many people are looking for them, from what I hear. If there's no reason for me to keep it, and that could be sent on back, too. Yeah, my picture machine was short a fire gong. It was short the tambourine, and let's see, what the heck else was it short? I had it written down here someplace, just what was missing out of it. I can never find anything around this place. Of course, it couldn't be my system I use. It's just as disorderly as anybody else's. No, the Chinese gong, or I think it was a big fire gong, maybe a foot across, because it had a bamboo hammer shank for a bounce, and the tambourine was gone, cymbal and the bracket was gone, and the motor was gone. It's got a bunch of buttons on mine on just in front of the keys, and it was the horse hoof and the soft pedal off, and the forte off, mandolin on, mandolin off, tremolo on, tremolo off, and coupler on and coupler off, piano on, piano off, violin on, violin off, flute on, flute off, bass on, bass off, all off, and re-roll. So it's got quite a flock of buttons there that you push to get the different expressions that you wish to get out of it. Well, Pat, I didn't say much to you, but on your old bones, it serves you right. You didn't say much to me either. So, I don't know. You sure don't have much to say. Most women get to rattling on these things and you can't stop them. But that's all right. It's excusable the first time, and I'll agree. I felt rather silly the first darn time I started talking on one of these, but now I've got less brains than I used to have, so it don't bother me so much. Lots of these things that you seem to get used to. I suppose it's like a nudist. Now, when he first goes to a nudist colony, he's very self-conscious, but after a while, he gets to seeing all those other funny shapes and forms running around, and he forgets all about his own. So I guess it's the same thing in learning to talk on a tape recorder. You just have to get with it and forget how silly it sounds and everything. It certainly does have wonderful results, so it's very nice. Oh, yes, Howie, I'm looking for a doorbell, too, to put on one of my picture players for a sound effect. You might happen to know of one around. Got my eye on a xylophone unit I might want to stick in a piano sometime if I can ever get the fellow to part with it, but he sure is a hard one to trade anything out of. Well, I'm going to go upstairs and do something up there that I want to send along with this, and and so you can get your comment on the next tape. And don't wait so long for the next tape now. I'll be rather anxiously waiting to get all the dope. Make a longer tape, too, and you talk a little bit more, too, Pat. I know darn well you can say more than you did this time. And let me know some more dope about your rigs and the rolls and any little gadgets you might feel you'd like to trade off. And doggone this other deal that I'm going to put on for you, we'll see what you think of that, too. And I'll go on upstairs and get that done and then get this off to you. And there'll be a copy of a sample of the type of leather that I use for diaphragms or pouches, and also a sample of that roll. And I would like to know if you got any of that roll. They're 9 5/8 wide, I think, 9 5/8 inches. Well, if I don't shut this off, I'm not going to have anything to put on it up there. So, toodaloo for a minute. It won't seem like a minute to you, but it will be by the time I get up there and get hooked up again. So, Abyssinia, and I'll be back on after I get through with this next deal. Well, I did it, and I'm glad. It took me only about 6 tries. I run back and forth to try to do that little bit of a ditty for you, and I finally got it over with. I get up there and get nervous and bungle up on the first chord. Yeah, even scared the cat. Well, anyway, that was my brand new Gulbranson Model B2 transistor organ. I got that when I was in Seattle, and I'm trying to sell a couple up here. I know the fellow that's the Northwest distributor for them, and he more or less talked me into the deal. And I've supposed to have one sale in October to the special services here, and there's a woman on the base that's still very much interested. Her husband told me the other day she had the money to pay for it if she would, and he didn't know exactly what she was going to do. And I've been taking lessons, and by the pointer system, which has been originated there in Wisconsin. Oh, I can't think of the name of the place. It's right near you. It's up. It might be in Minnesota, but I think it's Wisconsin. Originated in Winona, Minnesota. This is an $1,800 organ, And I've tried to practice half an hour a day. I've missed a good many times. But I'm getting a little bit better. I just got nervous when I knew you was sitting there and waiting for me to flub my dub, which I did a couple times. But I thought you'd like to know that I'm taking organ lessons, so one of these days I ought to be able to play my theater organ myself, and I sure hope so, because I've got a lot of good music to copy from. Well, this is all for now, and I'll be waiting for a real quick answer from you. So goodbye to you and Pat both.